Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe Jaya Radha Girdhari Radha Girdhari Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ke Jai Vishpad Paramahamsa Prabhajakacharya Sotar Sata Shishi Madesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakupinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhani Ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Samaveda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru. Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ma'am Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastai Badale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachayani Vishwasti. Hare Krishna. Thank you. You think you're up to setting this clock to the right time? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're getting to hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 30, text number 7. This is Chintamani or no? Okay. Pinayasthasta Bhuja Mandala Madhya Lakshmya Pinayatasta Bhuja Mandala Madhya Lakshmya Spardach Kriya Parivrito Vana Malayadha Spardhatstriya Parivrito Vana Malayadya Barhishmataha Purusha Aha Sutan Prapanan Parhishmata Purusha Aha Sutan Prapanan Parjanya Nada Rutiya Sangrinavaloka Parjanya Nada Rutiya Sangrinavaloka. Thank you. Pinayatasta Bhujamandala Madhya Lakshmya Spardhatstriya Parivrito Vanamalayadha Barhishmata Purusha Aha Sutan Prapanan Parjanyanada Rutaya Sagrinavaloka Pinayatasta Bhujamandala Madhya Lakshmya Spardhatstriya Parivrito Vanamalayadha Parhishmata Purusha Aha Satan Prapanan Parjanyanada Rutaya Sagrinavaloka Spardachtriya parvito vanamalayadat Barhishmata purusha ahasatan prapanan Parjanyanada rutaya sangrinavaloka Pinayatashta bhujamandala madhya lakshmya Spardachtriya parivito vanamalayadya Barhishmata purusha ahasatan prapanan Parjanyanada rutaya sagrinavalokaha Pina stout, ayata, long, asta, 8, bhuja, arms, mandala, encirclement, madhya, in the midst of, lakshmya, with the goddess of fortune, spardat, contending, shriya, whose beauty, parivritaha, encircled, vanamalaya, by a flower garland, adhyaha, the original personality of Godhead, brahishmataha, of King Prachinabarhi, purushaha, the supreme personality of Godhead, aha, addressed, Sutan, the sons, Prapanan, surrendered, Parjanya, like a cloud, Nada, whose sound, Utaya, by a voice, Sagrina, Sagrina, with mercy, Avalokaha, his glancing. Translation, around the neck of the personality of Godhead hung a flower garland that reached to his knees. His 8 stout and elongated arms were decorated with that garland which challenged the beauty of the goddess of fortune. That's got to be quite a garland. With a merciful glance and a voice like thunder, the Lord addressed the sons of King Prachinabarhi, who were very much surrendered unto him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The word Adya in this verse is very significant. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin even of Paramatma and Brahman. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:27, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The absolute truth begins not with the impersonal Brahman, but with the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. When Arjuna realized Krishna's greatness, he addressed him in this way. Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhum. You are the Supreme Brahman, the ultimate, the supreme abode and purifier, the absolute truth, and the eternal divine person. You are the primal God, transcendental and original, and you are the unborn and all-pervading beauty. Bhagavad Gita 10:12. The Brahma Samhita also says, Nadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam Supreme Lord is not caused by anything, anadi, but He is the cause of all causes. The Vedanta Sutra says, Janmadya yasha yataha. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. The absolute truth is described as Adi Purusha. The absolute truth is therefore a person and is not impersonal. Could we please pray? Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I never cease to marvel at Srila Prabhupada's undeviating defense of his Lord and Master, Krishna. Most transcendentalists would have us believe that Brahman is the cause of Krishna and everything. Today's the appearance day of Ramanujacharya. He played his part. Maharaj had a nice slideshow, a nice description of his philosophy, etc. What do you mean it's all one? Shankaracharya says, yeah, it's all one. It's formless, has no form. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't conceive of it. Brahman, the source of everything. There is only Brahman. Anything else is simply an illusion, any other concept. But that's just a tiny, little variation on Buddhism, voidism. There's nothing. How can you appreciate something if you can't see it, touch it, conceive of it, etc.? What's the difference? It's bogus. Mayavadi, it's Maya. And it was propagated to protect Krishna from those who would approach him and try to exploit him. Keeps the envious away. Lord Chaitanya told Murari Gupta how much it pained him. It didn't simply make him pained, it angered him that Prakashananda Saraswati would actually say that he has no arms, he has no eyes, he has no legs. He's deaf, dumb, and blind. What kind of rascal is this? Did you know he was stricken with leprosy? You don't get away with propagating Mayavad philosophy in a huge way. 60,000 initiated disciples. This is a force to be reckoned with in Varanasi. You don't get away with that. Dr. Radhakrishna, all respects to his service to India, etc., as the president, But Srila Prabhupada saw him in the last days, and he actually could hardly carry on a coherent conversation with Srila Prabhupada. And afterwards, Srila Prabhupada said, this is because of his offense against Krishna. It's not to Krishna that one should surrender, it's to the within Krishna. Did I get that right? It's to the unborn within Krishna. Srila Prabhupada can't stand that. He got that mood from his spiritual master. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast removed. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so pleased that he understood. Krishna, our best, well-wishing friend. The life of our life. You have no clue who he is, how wonderful he is, how wonderful his activities are, the beauties being described in these verses of the Lord. And you will carry on with your tiny brain thinking, oh yeah, everything here is variegated with form, therefore that which is beyond must be without form. And it's not that you can't cherry pick verses from the Shastra. Shiva, Shankaracharya is most intelligent. You know, Srila Prabhupada in this verse, Mattat Paratram Nanyat Kinchida Asti Dhananjaya Mayi Sarvam Idam Protam Sutre Maniganaiva. O conqueror of wealth, Krishna is speaking, Arjuna, there's no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So he quotes Saitasvatara Upanishad. Mayavadis quote this verse, Tato yad uttarataram tada rupam ananmayam yade tad vidur amritas te bhavanti atete etere dukam evapiyanti. In the material world, Brahma, the primeval living entity within the universe, is understood to be the supreme amongst the demigods, human beings, and lower animals. Beyond Brahman, there is the transcendence, who has no material form and is free from all material contamination. Anyone who can know him also becomes transcendental, but those who do not know him suffer the miseries in the material world. So, of course, they put all the stress on the word arupam. But arupam doesn't mean impersonal. It means the transcendental form of the Lord, Satchit Ananda. He possesses a form. Our form comes from his form, is a reflection of his form, this body being a reflection. The soul, proper, when developed in service to the Lord, possesses the same form as the Lord. It's one of the 5 types of liberation. You can have a form just as wonderfully spiritual as the Lord. You can have your stout arms, you can have 4 of them, or you could have 2 of them, depends who you want to worship. Quite amazing when you see the drawings for the artist to really get it down where the hands are reaching to the knees. You don't see anybody whose hands are reaching to the knees. Those are long arms, but they're symmetrical, they're stout. The Lord, he sets the standard of beauty. People, different cultures, this or that, they think, oh, this is beautiful, she's beautiful, what have you. Here it's saying the garland the Lord wears is challenging the beauty of Lakshmi Devi. That garland is not a mundane garland made of flowers comprised of the material energy. No, they're conscious, spiritual, I'll say a conscious spiritual entity who is doing its best to please the Lord and is in ecstasy being around the neck of the Lord, trying to glorify and serve and please him to the best of his or her ability. It's amazing. We just have no clue unless we hear. And that's what Srila Prabhupada does. I'm not saying. Krishna says, Ham sarvasya prabhavo mattat sarvam pravartate iti matbhava jante mam Buddha bhava samanvita. I'm the source of all spiritual material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Buddha bhava samanvita, with great attention. With bhava. With devotion. Once you see a glimpse of the Lord, it's all over with. Nothing, no one compares. Now you and I haven't had such darshan, I assume. I'm speaking for myself. But we have been in the association of those who have. And we hear from Scripture. Arjuna, he's with the Lord, he hears the Lord, and he glorifies Him. You're the supreme, original, transcendental person, eternal divine person. And from you, Brahman comes. You're the shelter of everything, everyone. Supremely purifying the absolute truth. So when we speak about the absolute truth, as the Bhagavatam so nicely describes, was it Vedanti tat tattva vidam tattvam yad jnanam aviyam brahmeti parmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. People get it turned around. They think, oh, Brahman is the highest. Sentimentalists, foolish people who need the crutch, they'll worship some illusory, temporary form of Brahman. But no, Brahman is just the first step. And whatever they derive in that understanding of the Lord. 14. Krishna says, where does he say it? That it's the foundation of imperishable happiness. Thank you, Prabhu. I'm the basis of impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Those who engage in the service of Bhagavan, the source of Brahman, they're not missing out on anything these Atmaramas, these liberated jivas experience. Because Krishna is the source of all Ananda. And we have described many a time where self-realized soul, hearing the flute, hearing the conch shell, smelling the flavor of the tulsi manjari that was offered at the feet of the Lord. What to speak of seeing the Lord? Immediately they give up their position of what they thought was supreme, which was most satisfying. And in developed spiritual senses, they run to serve the Lord. Their heart runs to surrender to His lotus feet, to serve Him with those spiritual senses, seeing, touching, glorifying, hearing, etc. What's the Atmarama verse? You have the mic?
Atma Ramastamunayo Nirgranta Apyurukrame Kurvanta Haitakim Bhaktim Ittam Bhuta Gunohari.
Translation.
Atma Ramastamunayo, even the great sages who are self-satisfied by virtue of realizing Brahman and are free of all material desires in the heart, Nirgranta, still they render service to the great Lord Urukrama, being enchanted by His wonderful qualities.
You never see a Paramahamsa turning around and going to Brahman. going back to the lower level. They consider that hellish. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur had darshan of Mukti Devi in Navadvip in his parikrama, oh, she was beautiful. He is amazed. Who is this goddess? And when she approached him, she offered her respects and said, my sister, Bhakti Devi, she's left me. She's left me behind. Everybody's taking shelter of Krishna through bhakti, and I'm Mukti Devi. I'm left alone. And when Bhaktivinoda just heard the word mukti, he fell down flat on the ground. And he began to pray to Lord Chaitanya, please protect me. I have absolutely no desire. Please protect me. Don't let me become bewildered. It's kind of like those sirens in the, where Ulysses, he wants to hear the sound of the sirens on the island. Tie me up on the mast. All of you put wax in your ears. We're not going to crash the ship into the rocks of the island and be turned into animals. But I want to hear that sound. A pure Vaishnava has no desire. No desire. However lofty and exalted others may consider that idea of merging into Brahman. Oh, they run away. So anyway, you never see anybody turn back. Now you do see neophytes. I had a godbrother I met in Rishikesh said, yeah, I chant Hare Krishna. I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada. I'm here cultivating the desire. I want to go to Brahman. And I couldn't believe my ears. Have you not heard? You can say, I read. Bhaktisiddhanta talks about people who knew all the works of Bhaktivinoda and could memorize them and quote them, but you never heard a word that he spoke. You never met him because it never entered into the heart. So you can have fools who will approach Krishna. Krishna will accept any and all who take shelter of him, and he will reciprocate according to their desire. But oh, what a tragedy. So anyway, Srila Prabhupada, he doesn't mince words at any time. If he thought it was necessary, he would blast them. Boldly, courageously, not giving a fig what anybody else thought. He wrote that article. I quoted it one time, but he said, practically speaking, the Bhavan Journal, everyone is combined together to kill Krishna. Everybody is Mayavadi, Shunyavadi, Nirvishesha. Only this movement is declaring boldly, no, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Everything, everyone comes from him. Janmadya yasya yata. And it's not that just everything and everyone comes from him, but everyone and everything is maintained by him. And ultimately, everyone and everything in this world is annihilated by him. All material energy, all material form goes back into him. This is Krishna, the tiny son of Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, the friend of the cowherd boys, the beloved of the gopis of Vraj. And he takes so much, he receives so much more pleasure by those who will, in their sincere surrender to the Lord, go beyond the level of awe and reverence, realizing that the Lord is, at least in this age, at this time, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers' grace, he's inviting us into his intimate circle of friends and family members. He loves, he gets so much more pleasure by being insulted or chastised by the Vrajvasis than he does with all the reverent prayers of the Vedas spoken by the greatest of demigods or the inhabitants of Vaikuntha, etc. He reciprocates, he fully satisfies those who wish to worship him in that way, But in terms of his own heart and his own pleasure, it's the Vrajvasis. So I don't know Krishna. What do I know? I know Krishna says he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know Srila Prabhupada says it. All the previous acharyas say it. All the scripture supports it. But my spiritual master, I do have some understanding. I do have some relationship. And we should take on the same pride in the message and the messenger of the Lord, and to the best of our ability, carry it forward and share it with others. If people aren't attracted, that's their misfortune. That's not our concern, really. We simply want to please Guru and Krishna. Guru, Vaishnavas, and Krishna. And when we say Vaishnavas, we mean advanced Vaishnavas. We're not meant to bring the standard of devotional services rendered to the Lord in our movement down to the lowest denomination. We're meant to raise the consciousness of the devotees in our family and our movement to the highest standard. At least that should be the goal, and nobody should be resentful of it. And any time we hear somebody misrepresenting or misunderstanding the Siddhanta that Srila Prabhupada has given us, we should not hesitate to stand up for Srila Prabhupada. Stand up for the message. I guarantee you Srila Prabhupada will bless you. There is no question. He experienced it in his own life, and he encourages us to do the same, and those who do, they know that feeling. Despite what obstacles, criticism, difficulty may be there, when something should be said and is said, then Prabhupada's pleased. Like he asked Jayadvaita Prabhu at the time, why didn't you say something? You knew the standard. Why didn't you? Srila Prabhupada expects us to stand up for Krishna, for Guru. Now, I may not know Krishna, but I tell you, all of us have the greatest fortune to know and to serve Gaurnitai, Radhagiridhari, Jagannath Baladev, and Subhadra Thakurani. And I want to just make mention that the proper mood to have that relationship expand and become deeper, where by their grace we might come to realize what's being said in the pages of the Bhagavatam. We, like the Prachetas, might get a merciful glance from the Lord. One time a devotee asked Jananivas Prabhu something about Madhava. He said, it kind of sounds silly, really, but what is Madhava made out of? And Jananivas asked him, what do you think Krishna is made out of? What do you think Madhava is made out of? He said, I think it's marble. He said, as long as you think Krishna is made out of marble, you'll never understand your spirit soul. Krishna is made of Sat Chit Ananda. He's the concentrated embodiment of all of that, which is eternal, blissful, and knowledge. He said that's who Krishna is. That's what he's made of. And Padma Purana instructs us, if you think that the water that has washed the feet of the Lord, Charnamrita we call it, is some ordinary water, very offensive mentality. If you think that the food that's offered to the Lord is the same that's being offered down at the corner at the Baja Grill or whatever, very offensive mentality. If you don't think that the Supreme Purifier, anything that is offered to him, comes in touch with him, the garland, the ornaments, his cloth, etc., the scents, if you think those are ordinary, like I can go to Macy's and get me some nice scents. These are all considered to be hellish mentality. And the deity will remain stoned to those of us who think like that. Vasudeva Ghosh, I shared this with Dravida Prabhu. I found it very enlivening. But Vasudeva Ghosh worshipped Radha Gopinath. And the Lord had told him to enter into a household life, and he began worshiping the deities. When he entered household life, his wife and son, newly born son, young boy, they both passed away very, very, very soon after having entered into household life. And he was very disturbed. I was told to do this service, and now I can't do the service? In his depression, in his discouragement, he went to his room, shut the doors, closed the blinds, and he fasted, thinking, I'll just fast to death. Can't do my service. What's the use of this body? After 2 or 3 days, the deities came to him. He said, what's wrong? How come you haven't fed us? What do you mean, what's wrong? My son and wife passed away. I have no service. Who's going to do the pinda for me? Who's going to free me of my sins to keep me from going to hell as I deserve? They said, well, what about us? Aren't we your children? We're hungry. If you don't feed us, who will? He wouldn't budge. He was stuck. He was fixed in his mona. And they said, hey, what if we promise to do the pinda for you? Will you then take up the service and feed us again? Vasudeva said, you'd do that for me? Yes, we promise. And so he became enlivened. So he took up the service, cooked a wonderful offering, offered it, and then life began anew, his devotional service. So for 200 or 300 years, it's in the purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, people would see the deities perform the Pinda ceremony for Vasudeva Ghosh. They would see. The Lord would allow them the vision of what was really taking place. And then there's another pastime that's not that far away, that long ago. Maybe 100 years or something like that. Somehow or other, Pujari dropped or did something, and the deity, the arm of Gopinath cracked. And so what do you do when the deity's arm is broken? You get a murti waller, and he brings his cement or his adhesive paste, and he tries to fill in the crack, and then polish it up, put the wrapping around it, let it settle. So after the appropriate amount of time had passed, they took it off, and the crack was still there, the broken arm. Pujari was shocked. And the deity came to him. He said, what are you doing? If you break your arm, what do you do? I get a doctor, and he gives me the medicine, and he puts it in a cast or splinters, whatever they did 100 years ago. Somehow or other you set the bone and you keep it stationary, and after some time it grows back together. He said, then why don't you do that for us? For me? And that's what he did. He got a Kaviraj, a doctor. He came, he gave the poultice, and he put the arm in a splint or the cast, whatever it might be, covered it up. Then after the appropriate amount of time, they took it off, and the deity was healed. The deity is not a stone statue. He's not representing Krishna. He is Krishna. And he's offering himself mercifully to us so that we can take care of him. And if somehow or other we can enter into that proper mood, then there's hope for us. One last thing, it's personal, but I am glorifying Gopinath in this way. Before his this festival that just was here, you know, a couple weeks ago or whatever, of his appearance, disappearance, whatever it was. The deities, they have a big mela on that titi, where Gopinath and so many other deities of the Ghosh family come together, about 12 deities, and they have a big fair, big mela. Thousands and thousands of people go celebrate. And, well, the deities, Gopinath, they leave the temple, and in a boat they go down the Ganga, and they stop in so many different places. And it happens every year, it used to for sure. And so some years back, I was with the twins and got the opportunity, hey, today we get to have darshan. He's over in Navadvip on the bank. Let's go. So I hopped in the boat with them, maybe 18 other devotees or so. And they had, you know, the plates of tulsi and the incense and the flowers and the garlands. And they were going to go worship Vasudeva Ghosh's deity. And having heard this katha from pujaris who don't see the deities as stone, who serve the Lord with the desire to please the person, Madhava Jew, very affectionate term. We went there, they allowed me to have some incense, some flowers, a garland, you know. The pujaris let us come right up, and I was in ecstasy. Kirtan was going on. It was ecstatic. So special. I knew this darshan was so special. These deities are so special. Like when Mother Sachi would have, you know, see the Lord, Krishna Balaram, and Gaura Tai fighting with each other and wrestling and throwing food at each other and what have you. Krishna said, oh, I knew our deities were very special, very much alive. I actually had some doubt maybe Vishnupriya was taking the maha and eating it herself. But now I know these deities, they're accepting your services. So it was special darshan, special opportunity. Went home so satisfied, so very satisfied. And Pankajangri has a really nice camera. And he took some pictures of the deities. Still has it on his wall above the door going into his room. And when they were developed and he showed it to me, I said, who's this? It's Gopinath. He said, no, it's not. I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, of course it's Gopinath. And it was amazing. That wasn't the form I got to see. Gopinath has these features that are very chiseled in trying to communicate it, almost like a Risen style art. They have kind of like the parrot-like nose, and the deity Gopinath is formed like that. That's not who I saw. If we try our best to surrender to our spiritual master in the process that he gives us, there's hope that even a mangy old dog like me can receive a crumb of the mercy of the Lord. And that's all it takes, a drop of mercy, a crumb of mercy, to give us that impetus to help us carry on. The future's very bright, and we're meant to take to this process as a transformative process. It's not simply about the waving the arms and offering what we do, thinking it's special, you know, this is expensive oil and best incense. That's all meant to be there. Raghava Pandit showed, no, he had wonderful fruit orchards. But if there was a better mango a couple miles away, he would have his servant go and get that mango to offer to his deity. The best, only the best should be offered to Krishna. But what Krishna is looking for is bhakti, devotion. And we get that by pleasing Guru and following his instructions as he gives them. And if we do, then there's a transformation in the heart. And to the degree that we see that qualities that are not admirable, that are not meant to be held on to, linger, then we should realize, as Balaram Prabhu said the other day, there's something lacking in the execution of our devotional services, our sadhana bhakti. And humility does not mean that we say, oh, I have this bad quality, that's who I am. That's not humility. That's pride. That's being satisfied with broken pieces of glass. When we have the opportunity to have the heart cleansed, where the Lord will see it fit to sit down within our heart and reveal Himself to us. That's what Srila Prabhupada's offering. That's what Lord Chaitanya's offering. We should beg and aspire, pray to accept that gift and do whatever it takes to show our sincerity of purpose, that we mean it. Are there any questions or comments? If nobody has anything to say, Pankajangri has been carrying on with the COVID virus. Went to the hospital. It's a breathing thing. He gets the flu every year. And inflamed lungs, You live in India, you get mucus like anything. Spit all the time, mucus. And mucus is a problem when you can't breathe so nicely. It obstructs breathing. And so he's been taking... The doctors have been giving him oxygen so the oxygen can enter into the blood and keep the organs alive and, carry on. So anyway, I don't know the latest, but I do know he's someone who has inspired me incredibly in devotional service and appreciation of the holy Dham of Mayapur and Srila Prabhupada, service to the Vaishnavas, etc. In so many ways I could glorify him and his brother. But anyway, if we could just chant one Maha Mantra for his recovery, I would be very grateful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. May Ramanujacharya and Srila Prabhupada bless one and all. Hare Krishna.